After marrying my childhood friend, Xavier, we maintained a polite but distant relationship. He was quiet, and I was indifferent. Our marriage lacked intimacy. But I didn't know Xavier could hear my thoughts. In the bedroom, I watched him blankly as he stepped out of the shower. Internally, I wondered, would I pass out if we did it?
Welcome to listen to my full sweet love series novel. I'm the blogger and I'm Twilight's novel. Now let's start the main story.
It'd probably feel amazing. What was that book Joanna showed me again? Something about losing focus? Oh right, slow burn. Xavier nearly slipped. I steadied him. Are you okay? Why won't the towel fall? It's wrapped so tight. It's not like I'd bite. His muscles are so well defined. And his fingers, long. I'm fine, Xavier said quickly, as if trying to stop something. He adjusted his towel. Sorry, I couldn't find my bathrobe, so I had to use this. Of course he couldn't find it. I threw it away. By now, it's probably shredded in a landfill. Tomorrow the towel goes too. I let go of him. Be more careful next time. Okay. Xavier changed into pajamas and got into bed. I pretended to read, stealing glances at him. He wore dark, long-sleeved pajamas. Ugh, I miss the old tank tops. Easier to sneak a feel. Too bad I only dare to touch when he's asleep. Maybe I should slip him sleeping pills. Then I could do whatever I want. I kept my face blank, staring at the book. Xavier suddenly got up. I frowned. Aren't you sleeping? Insomnia. I'm taking a sleeping pill. I shrugged and kept reading. When he returned, he'd changed into a loose tank top. He muttered, "Too hot." I nodded. Xavier lay down, the blanket barely covering his waist. His arms rested behind his head, muscles on full display. Better than any manga protagonist. He fell asleep quickly. I adjusted the AC lower. After reading a bit longer, I turned off the lights. In the dark, Xavier opened his eyes and stared at me, conflicted. I was already asleep, breathing softly. No groping. No slow burn. Just Xavier lying awake until dawn. The next morning, I stumbled out of bed. Mrs. Wong was cooking breakfast, sweet potato pancakes and soy milk. I sat obediently at the table. Good, she asked. Too busy eating. I nodded vigorously. Don't choke. She handed me a glass of soy milk. My kids never appreciate my cooking. I mumbled. Their loss. Mrs. Wong adored me. Despite my cold exterior, my eyes lit up at good food. Where's Xavier? He's usually up by now. He took a sleeping pill last night. Mrs. Wong paused. But the sleeping pills in the cabinet weren't touched. She recalled the coffee powder lid being loose. Xavier slept until afternoon. Even after so much rest, dark circles lingered under his eyes. His sleep must be terrible. Good thing I didn't grope him last night. I'll behave from now on. Suddenly, Xavier turned and glared at me. I slept fine. Oh? What does that have to do with me? Xavier ignored me. Men are so complicated. He slammed the door. That evening, our high school group chat buzzed. Our class reunion was happening. Joanna called. You're coming, right? Yeah, I'm free. Joanna and I had been friends since high school, even attending the same university. What about Xavier? Is he coming? I glanced at Xavier across the table. He opened his mouth. Please say no. I don't want him there. Xavier closed his mouth and shook his head. I smiled. He's not going. Joanna sighed in relief. Good. Jason will be there, your ex. He's still single, you know. Jason? That guy from high school? Joanna continued. He still wears the bracelet you gave him. I stiffened. It's fine. Great. See you Tuesday at 7 o'clock. After hanging up, Xavier's calm demeanor reassured me. Why worry? Even if I cheated, he wouldn't care. No. Xavier snapped. I flinched. What's his problem? Xavier forced a smile. I meant, Mrs. Wong's cooking isn't great. Mrs. Wong stormed in, waving a spatula. Excuse me? On Tuesday, Xavier spent an hour styling himself. dressed to impress. He looked like a model. Joanna says when men dress up, they're usually cheating. Xavier froze mid-hairspray. He put it down. Then he eyed my outfit. It's cold tonight. Wear a shawl. It's 30 degrees Celsius. Be safe. At the reunion, the room was packed. Joanna waved me over. She nudged me. Look at his wrist. Jason sat nearby, chatting casually. On his wrist was the cheap bracelet I'd bought him years ago. In high school, Xavier and I were in separate classes. We barely spoke, though his mom often sent him to deliver things to me. Eventually, rumors spread that we were dating. Jason, my then boyfriend, had been the one to shut them down. Persistently. Annoyingly. Until people stopped caring. I'd thanked him by treating him to milk tea, the first time I didn't walk home with Xavier. When I told Xavier, he just nodded and left. Jason was Xavier's opposite. Loud, expressive, unafraid of emotions. At 18, he confessed to me. After his 35th attempt, I gave in. Jason made me say, "I love you." That's when I saw Xavier in the doorway, backlit by the sunset. Expression unreadable. Jason smirked. "Hey, Xavier. Lynn and I are dating now. I'll walk her home from now on." Xavier's jaw tightened. I tugged Jason away. "Xavier, tell my parents I'll be late." "Okay." After that, I never walked home with Xavier again. Everyone knew about Jason and me. But they also knew I was married now, so they avoided the topic. One clueless classmate pointed at Jason's bracelet. "Dude, you're doing so well. Why still wear that?" The room fell silent. Jason smiled. "It's from someone special. Priceless." The classmate nodded. "Fair enough." Jason's gaze flicked to me. Midway through the night, I excused myself to the restroom. Jason was waiting outside. "Long time no see." I glanced at the sinks. Bad place for small talk. "Then let's go somewhere else." "We're not on small talk terms." Jason wasn't surprised. "You haven't changed. You were just as cold when we broke up." Our relationship ended senior year. Jason chose to study abroad. I broke up with him. He'd been furious. "Why? I'm coming back after graduation." "I don't like uncertainty." He scoffed. "We could have made it work. Why couldn't you sacrifice for me?" I stared back. "Why couldn't you?" He had no answer. Now, years later, he asked, "You married Xavier, huh?" I nodded. "Why? You didn't even like him in high school." "I don't hate him." Jason stepped closer. "But he's so quiet. You're both ice blocks. How does that work?" I paused. Xavier was there, leaning against the wall, sleeves rolled up, watching us. His eyes darkened. He strode over and draped an arm around me. "We make it work." "Nice to see you, Jason." Jason's smile vanished. "Xavier, can't I catch up with an old friend?" "You can. But remember boundaries." Xavier smirked. "Lynn is my wife now." He added, less confidently, "And we're deeply in love." Jason laughed. "Love? She married you out of habit. Otherwise, why would she have dated me?" Xavier's grip tightened. His fingers turned cold. "Because I was young and dumb," I said flatly. "Our marriage isn't your business." Jason paled. "I didn't mean." Our class president interrupted. "There you are. Everyone's asking where you went." I frowned. "What scheme?" Xavier suddenly pulled me flush against him. I looked up. He smiled stiffly. "And you are?" The president grinned. "You must be Xavier. Heard so much about you." This guy was the biggest gossip in high school. Also the #1 Jason/Lynn shipper. Xavier shook his hand. Hard. The president winced. "Sorry," Xavier said. "Been training for a marathon." Strong grip. What does running have to do with hand strength? The president brushed it off. "Congrats on marrying Lynn. Shame we missed the wedding." Jason smirked. "Next time." Xavier's smile froze. I snorted. The president dragged us back to the party. By the end, half the class was drunk. A friend slurred, "Lynn, your husband's a catch." Xavier nodded. Thanks. Someone else cut in. Jason's not bad either. You've got great taste. My friend elbowed me. So, who's hotter? Your husband or your ex? This is like asking mom or dad. How do I answer? But she wouldn't let it go. I shrugged. Both are fine. They finally left me alone. Joanna tapped me later. Where's Xavier? I blinked. No idea. She pointed to a corner. Oh. Someone's mad. I frowned. Why? Ask him yourself. I trudged over. Xavier sat alone. Drinking. Expression blank. You mad? No. Then why sit here? Good air. I eyed the drunk crowd. It reeks of alcohol. Does he like that? Weird, but okay. I turned to leave. Xavier grabbed my wrist. His voice was soft, almost hurt. You called him handsome. Who? Jason. It was nothing. Really? Obviously. Objectively. Xavier's hotter. Xavier's lips twitched. But Jason's not bad either. I did date him after all. Xavier's hot, but I see him every day. The novelty's gone. I nodded. Really? Instead of calming down, Xavier looked even more upset. His face cycled through emotions I'd never seen before. Did I say something wrong? Probably not. He's just picky. Xavier suddenly laughed. He pulled me onto the couch, kneeling before me. Between Jason and me, who do you prefer? I noticed his unbuttoned shirt, his collarbone, his chest, his breathing. You're my husband. I want to hear you say it. This was hard for me. I hated emotional speeches. Xavier undid another button. Leaned closer. Holy shit. From this angle I could see everything. His waist. His abs. Even a peek of his black boxers. Same brand as the ones in his drawer. In this dim private corner, with noise all around, the usually stoic Xavier knelt before me. It was thrilling. Lynn, he murmured. Who do you like? I whispered. You. Only me. Yes. Say it again. Only you. Leaving the reunion, my face burned. Xavier trailed behind me, equally flustered. Those dress pants really highlight his assets. Xavier coughed. Let's go. At home, Mrs. Wong had prepared snacks. I devoured them, forgetting Xavier entirely. Back in our room, he was showering. I went to hang my coat and spotted his phone on the desk. Since when did Xavier use such large font? Before I could react, I'd already read the text. Jason. A marriage without love won't last. She didn't love you after all these years. You think marriage will change that? Stop lying to yourself. Divorce her. I paused. Then Mrs. Wong called me out for mango pudding. It was so good I forgot Jason existed. Xavier checked his phone after showering. He'd left it unlocked, expecting me to see the message. But beneath Jason's text, I'd replied. We're going to bed. Stop bothering us. That night, Xavier's arm slid around my waist. His breath tickled my neck. I froze. This had never happened before. Xavier. No response. I called his name again. He nuzzled my shoulder. Sleepy. Don't move. Don't move. Is he really going to hold me all night? His chest is so soft. I want a bite. No, Lynn. Stop. But male lactation kink though. Xavier subtly shifted his hips away from me. His lips curled up. After that, Xavier clung to me every night. He'd apologize in the morning, then do it again. Strangely, I didn't mind. But sometimes, he'd disappear into the bathroom for hours. I told Joanna about it. She grinned. Finally acting like married people. I frowned. My parents are like this. Because you exist, she deadpanned. You think they're this proper behind closed doors? But Xavier and I aren't close. Then kiss him. Get close. Okay. I'll ask him later. Joanna face-bombed. That evening, I pondered Joanna's advice. Kissing seemed like a good start. Xavier was cooking, sleeves rolled up, apron on. Reminds me of that manga Joanna showed me. The one where the hero cooks shirtless in an apron. Xavier choked on nothing. I handed him a napkin. He glared. If he went shirtless, from behind, it'd look like he's naked. Would it bounce? Depends on size, I guess. Wonder how Xavier measures up. Kitchen's smoky. Get out. He shoved me out and slammed the door. Men are confusing. After dinner, Xavier brought out a matcha roll. Haven't made this in a while. Try it. I took a bite. Sweet. Fluffy. Perfect. Xavier had learned to cook in middle school. Back then, both our families decided we should learn. Result: my dad got food poisoning. His dad puked all night. The experiment was abandoned. Xavier tried again when I developed stomach issues. I never thanked him properly. Now, I finished the roll and carried the plate to the kitchen. Xavier was washing dishes. Just leave it. Can we kiss tonight? A plate clattered. Xavier's back stiffened. Finally, he said, "Okay." Later, Xavier paced before entering the bedroom. I set my book down. Now. He glanced at the bed. Yeah. I brushed my teeth. Me too. I knelt on the bed, pulled him down, and kissed him. His lips were warm. I followed the steps from novels. Licking, biting, exploring. Xavier's breathing grew ragged, but he let me lead. When I pulled back, he chased my lips. Then stopped. Sorry. It's fine. I returned to my book. But my eyes kept drifting south. Damn. It's huge. Ready to burst. Xavier abruptly stood. Where are you going? Bathroom. Days later, I cornered Xavier again. Kneeling on the bed, I stared. Kiss me. Nah. I command you to kiss me. Xavier's throat bobbed. But he shook his head. I let go. Fine. Rejected. Is he bored of me already? Typical man. Xavier smirked. He leaned in, voice low. Lynn, you can't tease me and expect no consequences. My body can't take it. Consequences like what? I looked away. Then I'll stop. Xavier chuckled. Coward. I'm not. Yes, you are. He kissed my cheek. You're a coward. And I'm a bigger one. Ha. Xavier perked up. Did she finally realize? This guy really insults himself. Xavier. I hate you. Next day, I called Joanna. Coward? Nah. You're just dense. Right. But Xavier calling himself a coward is weird. Unless, the line went dead. Joanna was at a bar. I panicked, grabbing my bag. Xavier followed. I'm coming. How'd he know where I'm going? I didn't put it on speaker. He backpedaled. It's late. I'll drive. At the bar, I found Joanna arguing with Jason. She waved. Lynn, my phone broke or I'd have called. Jason glared. Why am I blocked? This guy again. Joanna explained Jason helped her with a business deal. I eyed them. You weren't bullied? Joanna laughed. I own this place. Jason just introduced me to a supplier. Jason nodded. Yeah. They kept reassuring me until I believed them. Jason sighed. Good. Last time you got mad, you almost killed a guy. Joanna added, good thing you wore a mask. And picked a blind spot. That idiot never figured it out. Xavier frowned. What mask? What alley? Joanna blinked. Who mentioned an alley? Jason smirked. Xavier, you didn't know? Lynn skipped walking home with you that day to handle that. In high school, a boy harassed Joanna with crude jokes. When she rejected him, he kicked her. I dragged her to the teacher, forcing him to apologize publicly. But the next day, he mysteriously transferred. Jason knew the truth. I'd beaten him up in an alley. I never told Xavier. Now, guilt gnawed at me. Sorry, I muttered. Xavier's voice was tight. You trusted Jason with that, but not me? I frowned. What's the connection? We're married because we love each other. Jason scoffed. Lynn's never been close to you. She included me in everything. Joanna elbowed him. Dude, shut up. Jason rolled his eyes. I'm stirring the pot. Duh. Xavier's jaw clenched. Jason, stop. Jason smirked. Or what? You'll scheme again? Like when you got me sent abroad. Xavier froze. I narrowed my eyes. What scheme? Jason explained how Xavier tutored his cousin, then convinced his parents to send Jason overseas. Xavier didn't deny it. True. We stared at each other. Jason laughed. See? He's manipulative. Your marriage is a lie. I snapped. You chose to go. You never loved uncertainty. Xavier just pushed you toward it. Jason paled. I stepped between them. Our marriage isn't your concern. Jason's voice cracked. Lynn, do you love him? My breath hitched. Love. Do I love Xavier? Jason forced a smile. Then let me say this late. Congrats on the wedding. After dropping Joanna home, we stopped at a pharmacy. Xavier eyed the bag. What's that? Condoms. Xavier's grip on the wheel tightened. Why's he reacting like that? Better stay quiet. Don't crash. I leaned back, feigning sleep. At home, Xavier showered while I opened the box. 5. How long will these last? In novels, 1 night isn't enough. In reality, 2 might be overkill. Is he nervous because he'll finish fast? Do I comfort him? Xavier walked in, fully clothed. I glared. Not interested? And no. I just want to know why. You like me, don't you? Xavier's eyes widened. All his pining and I just said it? No dramatics? No shyness? I added, if you like me, then do it. So slow. I'm tired. Xavier swallowed. Why did you hide the alley thing from me but tell Jason? Annoying. Why date him so long? Liked him. Duh. Would have dumped him otherwise. Xavier exhaled. At least I hadn't divorced him. That meant something. I snapped. Are we doing this or not? Yes. The sound of tearing foil triggered me. I grabbed Xavier's wrist. No. He paused. That's risky. Not that. Then what? Xavier kissed me, trailing down until he was on his knees. His voice was rough. Like this. Lynn, do you like it? Baby. Afterward, I chugged water. Xavier coaxed me into saying, I love you, 10 times. Worth it. At a family dinner, Xavier ordered pineapple. I stomped on his foot under the table. What are you planning? He smirked. When the pineapple arrived, he piled my plate. Eat up. It's sweet this season. I gritted my teeth. Thanks. Xavier grinned, lacing our fingers together. My mom sighed. They're so in love. Dad nodded. Thanks to Mr. Pei. Otherwise, they'd never have met. Xavier's mom blinked. What? Wasn't it your idea to set them up? Mom frowned. No, we just introduced Lynn to potential matches. Dad added. Yeah. One was a doctor. Xavier's mom gasped. Xavier told us you arranged it. I froze. Mom turned to me. Lynn, that doctor. Did you ever meet him? I shook my head. Only Xavier. He said his mom was pressuring him to marry. Xavier's mom gasped. I never pressured him. She glared. You lied to both families. Xavier coughed. Actually, 3 parties. He admitted, I lied to the doctor too. Dead silence.
Extra chapter, Xavier's perspective. Childhood sweethearts. Inseparable companions. These phrases define Xavier and Lynn's early years. Yet Xavier never considered Lynn particularly special to him. After all, they weren't even close. His occasional attentiveness stemmed from family expectations that became habit. Learning to cook for her was just neighborly courtesy. At most, he considered their relationship akin to distant siblings. They walked to school together. They shared meals at the same table. They did homework side by side. He pretended to be her boyfriend to ward off admirers. She played his sister to reject girls for him. Xavier assumed this equilibrium would last forever, until high school began. This period left Xavier deeply unsettled, perhaps due to adjustment struggles, or perhaps because, for the first time, they were in separate classes. He could no longer monitor Lynn's every move. Their schedules diverged completely. But this wasn't insurmountable. If Lynn left late, he'd accompany her and risk tardiness. When her class ran overtime, he waited patiently outside. If teachers delayed her lunch, he bought meals in advance. Yet sometimes exceptions occurred, like when Xavier got a teacher who also dragged out classes. Lynn waited outside his classroom that day. Seeing her should have delighted him. But the lunchbox she handed him was prepared by another boy. Lynn explained casually that she'd helped the boy, and this was his repayment. Xavier tasted the food. For the first time, cafeteria meals seemed utterly flavorless. That boy was Jason, Lynn's new deskmate. Loud, chatty, endlessly talkative. Xavier consoled himself that Lynn would inevitably tire of such noise. Surely she'd cut ties with Jason soon. She didn't. Their bond deepened instead. Jason even took it upon himself to debunk Xavier-Lynn dating rumors. Xavier developed his first true hatred for someone. Lynn, however, seemed fond of Jason. So fond that she abandoned Xavier for him during their walks home. Walking alone that day, Xavier felt unmoored. He couldn't comprehend why this unsettled him so. Why his chest ached so strangely. She was just the girl next door. Someone he treated as a kid sister. Then he overheard Lynn tell Jason, "I like you." In that moment, Xavier understood everything. The seed of jealousy took root. Only then did he recognize the towering tree of love that had grown unnoticed in his heart. Later, Lynn brought Jason home. Xavier resented her parents' permissiveness. Anxious, he invented excuses to linger at the Lynn household. While Lynn and Jason chatted in the living room, he helped in the kitchen. Carrying dishes out, he caught their conversation. Jason mentioned wanting to study abroad. "My parents won't object if I insist." "Lynn, come with me?" Xavier's heart nearly stopped. It took tremendous willpower not to interrupt. Lynn stayed silent for a long minute. Each second stretched Xavier's nerves tighter. Then, "No, but do you support me going?" "Yes." Lynn's voice held no warmth. "But we'll break up if you do." Jason laughed it off as whimsy. Xavier knew better. Lynn meant every word. After graduation, while peers partied, wealthy Xavier took a tutoring job. His target? Jason's cousin, temporarily living with the Jiang family. The boy was entering 9th grade. Xavier's academic prowess secured the position easily. During discussions with Jason's parents, Xavier inwardly scorned his own deceit. Yet he kept subtly steering them toward overseas education. He knew choosing career over love wasn't wrong. Lynn would make the same rational choice. So he succeeded. Jason went abroad. The relationship ended. Xavier and Lynn entered the same university. Xavier didn't consider this a sacrifice. He simply couldn't bear life without Lynn. 3 years passed. At last, Lynn's world contained only him again.